Hi everyone, welcome back. This is the So Now What podcast and my name is Carrie. I'm coming to you from Scappoose, Oregon, which is just north of Portland. And welcome. I want to welcome any viewers that are returning and welcome any of the new viewers that might be tuning in. This podcast is about knitting and quilting and crafting in general. So, grab a cup of whatever, an adult beverage if it's that time of day for you, and then let's just chat. Let's just hang out. I want to give a shout out to Shannon over at Sockcetera. She had said something a couple podcasts ago about slowing down, and when I watched myself on my last video, I was going too fast. I get excited. It's weird talking to a camera, and it's just kind of a whole odd thing. And the nerves and whatever, and I get talking too fast. My brain's going about 90 miles an hour, and my mouth is only going at about 60. And then I don't articulate, and my thoughts start ping-ponging, and then I feel like I don't make any sense. So I'm going to try and take a breath and go a little slower. And if this ends up being a little longer, then it's a little longer, and watch it in 2 segments, 3 segments if you can't make it all the way through. I don't think I have that much to talk about to make it be too long, but in my effort to feel like I had to just get everything out there and not take too much of your time, I was rushing things and I ended up sounding like a mumbling mess. So anyway, let's just begin. Last episode, first, before I start, I should tell you about the quilt that's behind me. Let's do the What's on the Wall. And What's on the Wall is a quilt that I did not make, but I quilted it. So that's why I have it. It is a quilt that my friend Jenny, who owns Mama Made It Quilt Shop, has put together and is offering from her quilt shop as a block of the month. And for those of you that aren't quilters, what that is each square with the pattern, like that one right there, that's a block. And so what you do is you get the pattern for that for the month, all the fabrics you need to make it. The next month you'll get the next block, and eventually when the whole series is done, you have enough to make this beautiful quilt. I think it's a beautiful quilt. And I love the pattern, I love the blocks, I love the colors. I think it's really neat. She does offer this, or will be offering it. She's got to get it back from me and put the binding on and put it in her shop, but it's going to be offered as a block of the month through her website even. So if you're not local to my area, you can still make this and get everything you need for it. So mamamadeit.quiltshop.com. Check it out. If it's not on right now, it will be very soon. Like I said, she's waiting for me to get this back to her, but she was kind enough to let me hang on to it for an extra day so that I could have it as my backdrop because I thought it was so pretty. Last episode, I had talked about something that was coming up called the Rose City Yarn Crawl. And if you're a quilter, these kinds of things are known as shop hops. I've never been a big fan of shop hops because usually it ends up giving you a pattern block by block, kind of like the block of the month. You don't really know what the end quilt's going to look like, and it's not usually something that I would want to make anyway. I've never been one to just buy fabric just because. If I saw fabric I really, really liked and felt like I had to make something with it, I would find a pattern that would go with that fabric. Like, I need to make this pattern with this fabric, and so that I could get enough to make it. I wouldn't just buy fabric just to have. Because to me, after a while, you either lose interest in it, it gets dated if you have it long enough, the style goes out of style, and I'm not a huge shopper. So when this Rose City Yarn Crawl came up, I thought, this I can do. I really want to try and do this. Because what I'm finding with yarn is you can buy a color of yarn because it's not a pattern or anything. It's just, you're basically just buying the color and the fiber content, that you don't have to have a pattern for it to go with. Like if I bought some yarn, it's not like I'm buying this I got to think of what I'm going to make with it. It's like, I can just buy this because it's pretty. And eventually down the line, when I find a pattern I really want to make, I'll have the yarn to go with it. And it's not going to end up being old or look old. So I really was excited about this yarn crawl. So it was a 4-day event that went from Thursday through Sunday. It included 14 quilt shops in and around Portland. Jim helped me map out how and where I should go, and we decided to do it. I would do it in 2 days. So Thursday I hit 5 shops that were kind of on the outskirts on the west side of Portland. They were a little more spread out. And then Saturday our plan was to hit the ones that are on the east side of Portland and more in downtown and that kind of thing, that were a little closer together. And so so I headed out Thursday morning. I hit it perfect timing. There wasn't a lot of traffic. I did notice when I was heading towards the first one out in Westland on the highway going the other direction, which is where I would have ended up going back on, was stop and go. There was an accident involving a tanker truck. There was a fire truck there, and traffic was backed up for miles. I knew I didn't want to go back that way, but that's where my map was taking me. So when I went into that first shop, I walked around, shopped around. I didn't end up buying anything, which I tried to buy something from every shop just to support them. But it was in kind of a more upper scale area, and their prices reflected that. And I felt like it was just too pricey for me. But I talked with the lady there that was stamping the passports, and I said, okay, I'm not from this area. I need to go from here to there, and how do I do it? And so she gave me some directions. And so with that and with my Google Maps on my phone, I found my way around, and I was pretty proud of myself because I don't ever necessarily get lost. I don't always know where I am, but I always find out where I'm going eventually. So I'm not completely lost. And so it was one of those kinds of days, like, I don't know where I am. Am I going far enough? Now I feel like I'm just out up in the woods. And then pretty soon I was where I needed to be. So that was pretty fun. And so I hit 5 shops that day on Friday. And then Saturday morning we headed out and just kind of bounced from shop to shop. And it was really fun because Jim knew where he was going to take me. He had it all planned out. And we would go by, and if there wasn't parking, he'd drop me off. I'd go in and shop. I would text him when I came out, or when I was like, I'm almost done, or I'm done, I'm waiting. And he said, okay, I'll pick you up where I dropped you off, or he'd swing by the front of the shop. However it worked out. And it was just a lot of fun. It was kind of like going on a scavenger hunt in a way. And we just like drove all around and was like, okay, where are we going next? I'd get in the car and I don't even know where I'm going to go. Where are we going next? Oh, we're going to go to this shop. So, okay. And we'd get there, I'd hop out, I'd go in and do some shopping. I bought something at almost all the stores except for 2. But I didn't have to spend too much time in there. I tried to look for things that were maybe specific for the yarn crawl. I wanted to try and buy things that were dyed by indie dyers if I could, instead of commercial dyers, as much as I could. Just that was kind of what my focus was. So I did pretty good, and I ended up with a decent haul, and I'm excited to show you what I got. Let me lift this up. Look at that. I got all that fun stuff. It was funny because when I started, I thought, there's nothing really in particular that I need. I know I want to make the Vilnius shawl, which I mentioned in the last episode. And so I did get the pattern. It came out on March 1st. There's the Vilnius shawl. And I had some yarn that I bought that I was going to make it out of. So I was going to use this with like blues and greens and stuff like that. When I got the pattern, I realized that this isn't going to have as much yardage as I needed. I was short like 10 yards, I think. And I thought, well, it might work, but 10 yards is kind of a lot of yarn. So the pattern has an applied border, and I thought, oh, I'll just get kind of this aqua color and just add a different color as the border. So I'll look for something with that color. Well, what I ended up finding for that was this. This actually would have worked with this. Let me get the tags out of the way. That would have worked. But this has enough yardage on it to do the whole shawl. And I thought, you know, I think this will end up looking better because there's a lot of, it's got a lot of lace design in it. And I think this more solid color will show that off better. And so this is a really nice tealy color. And this is from Nerd Girl Yarns. And so the change of plans is now I'm going to make the Vilnius shawl out of this. So that was a cool color to find. Another color that I was wanting to look for was I wanted to get something in pink and I wanted to get something in like a glacial icy blue. Because those are two colors that I wear a lot. And so I found, and I don't have plans for what I'm going to make with it. It's just, I wanted those colors. So I got this. This is dyed by Bumble Birch. It's a fingering weight yarn. BumbleBirch.com is in Portland. So it's an indie dyer local. It's kind of a plummy pink with grays and white. This will look good. This will be good as something. I don't know what, but it'll be good. It's a nice soft yarn. The icy blue color I found in another shop by Lilliput Yarns, and it is hand dyed in Beaverton, Oregon, which is a city just west of Portland. And I talked with the dyer. She was in the shop, and she was just a sweet young gal, and she was really sweet. Had some really pretty colors, and so and it was weird because in her display, my eye was instantly drawn to this kind of a variegated with oranges, kind of a sherbety color. I don't wear orange. Orange really isn't that good of a color for my skin tone, but I was really drawn to it. And I'm like, I don't know why my eye keeps going there, but that was a really pretty yarn. But I stuck with the color that I knew I wanted to get something of. So this, I don't know what it's going to be, but it'll be something. So that was a really pretty one. A couple of shops had yarns that were dyed or made up specifically for this yarn crawl. And so one of the shops had this color, which she calls mushroom, and it's Sandra's Crafts, alexandrascrafts.com out of Silverton, Oregon. And it is a really unique color. It's a purple, but it's a very like tanned out or grayed out purple. So it's not like an in-your-face purple. And the yarn has these cool, I don't know if you can see them, these little slubs on them. So it adds another texture. They had something knitted up in it, and it was just gorgeous. It had a really nice drape to it. And this was just such a unique color that I knew I had to go home with this one. So I can't wait to make something with that. I'm not sure what. The yarn shop that I talked about before, Twisted, it's in Portland. I went there. That's where I got the yarn that I had the last episode. And they are the only retailer in a Portland area that carries Blue Moon Fiber Arts yarn. And so there was a colorway that was dyed just for the yarn crawl. And I knew I have to get that because that's specific to this and it's unique and it's not something you're going to just be able to buy online or whatever. So this is the colorway that I got, and it's called Mossy Plaid Portland. And it's greens goes into blues and kind of a teal color. What's funny is I don't wear green. I don't think I even own anything green. Not that I don't like green. I mean, I like green just fine. My car is green. I've got a lot of green in my house. I just don't wear green. But with this having some blue in it, I think it might work. I don't know. So anyway, I got it because it was specific to that. And I think I got a percentage off because it was the yarn crawl. I'm not sure. After a while, I kind of lost track. Then I found some really fun sock yarn for socks. It's kind of confetti. It's got like every color under the sun from Knitted Wit. I don't know where they're out of. I don't know if it's a local dyer or not. It is an indie dyer, so at least it had that going for it. I just thought this would make a really fun pair of socks. One of my goals, if I couldn't find a skein of yarn, I wanted to pick up some mini skeins to use as like heels and toes and that kind of thing. So a couple of shops did have those. The bigger shops had them. So I got, what is it, Madeline Tosh unicorn tail. Won't that be cute as a heel and toe? This like neon pink color. I thought that would be really cute with it. So that's going to be kind of fun. And this is going to be, I think, my next pair of socks I'm going to make. I was going to make a pair of socks out of, what was it, monkey toes, I think is what it was called, out of this color that I showed last week. This I didn't get at the yarn crawl. But in my shopping, I found a pattern called, it's pronounced Yana. And it's a brother and sister team that do patterns and dye yarns. And this is, it was just a simple shawl. It's got some beading on the edge. So then I had this idea of like, oh, you know, that kind of a plummy pink color is a really good color for me. And I do wear a lot of this color. And so I bought some beads at Joann's to try and make that shawl with it and put the beads on it. The beads are like a pink with a sort of a bluish opalescence on the outside. I don't know if it's the right size beads because the pattern calls for size 6 and I don't know beads at all. And this says it's 6/10 check glass e-beads. I asked the gal at Joann's, she didn't know either, and I thought, well, if it doesn't work for this shawl, I don't have to put the beads on it and I can use these for something else. But because of that pattern, that changed the whole thing I was going to do with that yarn, which was fun. So I'm going to go ahead and make my socks out of this yarn, and I'm going to do the Hermione sock. A little bit of texturing, but they're supposed to be pretty easy. Being that it's going to be the first time I'm going to do magic loop with socks, I thought I should keep it somewhat simple to see how it goes. First time I'll ever do a contrasting heel and toe. I don't think I'm going to do a contrasting cuff because for the most part my cuff's up underneath my jeans and you can't see it anyway. And I hate making cuffs. So I'm going to keep it simple and just do the heel and the toe and the contrasting. I think that would be enough of a accent for me. A few more things that I got. I did pick up a couple more unicorn tails. Let me do this the right way. I got a deep red, a deep blue, and like a charcoal gray. So those are just some basic colors. They'll go good with socks or add on to something. I don't know. I picked up some opal sock yarn. It makes a striped, self-striping. I haven't ever used this yarn before, and I've seen a lot of posts using it, so I thought I'd try it, and there was a shop that carried it. So, I mean, not too exciting. Definitely like something that goes with jeans and that kind of thing. And then the where did I put that pattern? The people that do this pattern also dyed yarn, and so they had this yarn, and it's just a charcoal gray. They call it Caviar. It's Yoth Yarns. This is their little brother weight, I guess. It's a fingering weight. This is just to kind of go with, I don't know what, but when I got everything home and looked at everything, I thought it kind of went with that. It could be a good contrast to that for something. I'm not sure. Like I said, I don't have anything planned for it. I was able to pick up a cable for my Knitter's Pride interchangeable circular needles because I needed another nice long one for my Build-A-Smear shawl, and I like to keep my long one available for when I'm knitting hats, so I needed one for my other stuff. So so that was the yarn crawl. That was pretty much what I did. We had a lot of fun. It was just a good day. We just had a lot of fun. We took Millie with us, and so if Jim parked somewhere where he could kind of take her for a walk, he'd walk her around a little bit, and you know, she just liked to kind of people watch as much as he did. And he said it was fun to kind of see, like, he would start recognizing ladies as they were going in and out of the yarn shops when he was waiting for me. So I appreciate the fact that he did that. I appreciate it so much because it would have been really difficult. Not that he couldn't do it. I would have probably needed more than a couple of days to do all those shops. But like in the downtown area, you know, he dropped me off and he circled around a little bit. I would text him and say, okay, I'm done. And he would you know, make the circle and pick me up. So he didn't have to try and find a place to park. So that helped to not have to do all of that. I think I'd do it again. I mean, it was fun. It wasn't a bad thing. It was fun that we did it together. And the weather was really nice. Actually, both days were nice days. When we stopped on Saturday, it was like, okay, we're done. We hit everything. We're done. I turned in my passport. I got my little pin that says I completed it. And we're like, okay, let's get some lunch. And we went into a Chipotle downtown and got some lunch and just had sat down to eat, and it started raining. And not that it's bad that it's raining, but it definitely made it nice that I wasn't getting wet going in and out of all these shops, and that he wasn't having to drive in the pouring down rain or anything. So our timing was just perfect. So we'll see. I got to get started on some projects. I wanted to wait until I showed you guys what I got. And so now I can start winding up some yarn and get some things started. I'll get started on the Vilnius shawl as soon as I finish the shawl that I'm in the process of. So I'm going to move right into works in progress. So I showed you last week the shawl I'm making with the milkweed shawl pattern. And I was having a lot of trouble with it. It seemed like I'd knit the shaping row and I'd somehow get off, and I'd have to, take it out, and I'd maybe do a couple of rows that worked out pretty good, and then I'd be off again, and I was having a hard time finding where I was off. I was getting really, really frustrated. And one of the times when I was taking it back, I dropped a stitch, and it was in one of the shaping stitches, and I had no idea what it was supposed to be, where it was, and it got to the point where it was like, now I have to just rip this out. And I'd gotten it in about 40 rows. So I wasn't a long ways in, but it took me a long time to get that far because I just struggled so much. And then it was really starting to piss me off. And I thought, why am I feeling so overly frustrated? Why am I fighting taking this out? And I tapped into a little part of me that's like, it made me feel stupid. Like, how can I not figure this out? I'm smart enough to figure this out. And this is making me feel like I'm not smart enough to do it. And I wasn't going to let it win. And I thought, this is just dumb. Take the darn thing out. Start over. I was tempted to not make that same shawl again because I thought this is just too hard. But I knew I needed to stick with it. I don't give up easily on things. And I thought, why am I feeling like I need to give up on this? You need to do this. This is a good first shawl with a little bit of shaping. If you think you're going to tackle the Vilnius shawl, you got to be able to do this one. So I casted it back on, and I decided to try and follow the chart instead of the written directions. And that really, it took me a little bit to kind of get the groove of that, but then it was like, oh, this is so much easier. Because I found that when I was reading the written directions, I'd, read that you got to do this and this and this, and then I'd knit it, and then I'd look back and I thought, where am I? I think I'm right here. And I think that's where I was messing it up because I was kind of losing my place in the long line of directions. But with the chart, because there is a repeat to it and you kind of get the idea after you get going on it, where you're supposed to be, I was able to look and just in glancing could see the pattern. And it's like, okay, that registered in my brain better. So I found that I was able to do the chart better. So I'm going to stick with doing that. So because I ripped it out, I didn't really get very far, kind of. I put a stitch marker, a place marker. That's how far I knitted the first time. I took all that out. So I've re-knitted all of it, and it's turning out. The patterning is actually turning out pretty good. It's kind of hard to see because it's getting kind of squished up. I've got a couple areas that like the hole's not supposed to really be there, but you know what? It's going to be okay. I feel like I'm doing pretty good. I'm not having to take it out as much now as I was before. I'm glad that I took it out, even though it was frustrating, and I'm glad I stuck with it because now I feel better about it. So I'm on the homeward stretch of that. I don't think I have too much more to go. It takes a little longer now that it's growing because now it's, however many stitches long, it takes a longer time to knit that through. But, But I'm feeling better about it, and I can't wait to wear it because it's got all the colors. And this, you know what? I have to give a testament to this yarn. Because of how many times I was having to take it out and reknit it and take it out and reknit it, you know, a lot of times yarn will get kind of fuzzed up. It starts to break down. This yarn has held up. You can't tell that I was struggling with it. I mean, it's just holding up beautifully. So, testament to that yarn. And this is a yarn from Blue Moon Fiber Arts. It's their mid-weight Socks that Rock yarn. Love working with the yarn. I really do. So I'm excited for that to be done here pretty soon. So when I get my Build-A-Smear shawl started, I made a project bag for it. Look at how cute. So I've got my little place marker zipper pull that I made, a little flower, and lined with some cotton and steel inside. Nice, bright, sunny, fun bag. And then I made some stitch markers. Look at how cute. I'll put it against my black shirt. So those will go with my Build-A-Smear shawl. I don't know how many stitch markers I need, so I've got 4 there. Hopefully that's all I need. But yeah, that was my first project bag, so I was pretty pleased with it. It's a nice big one. It should hold a pretty big project. I don't know how big that shawl is going to end up being because it is like lacy. It'll, you know, size-wise it'll be big, but I think it'll squish down pretty far. But I'll be able to fit a lot of different projects in this. So that was a fun thing to make. I do have a finished object, a completed object. And it's my socks, my rainbow socks. I want to thank everybody that made the comment and helped me with the problem I was having. Every time I knit socks, let me see if I can find it. Every time I knit socks, I was getting like this groove. And it was hard to look up how to fix it because I didn't know what it was called. And I guess it's called, you're getting a ladder, or it's laddering or something like that. And so what was suggested to me, people left comments in the comment section, and they also commented on the Ravelry group, and said what you need to do when you go from one needle and you go to knit, you know, like you've knitted all those stitches, now you're knitting on the next needle, is you knit 2 stitches, then pull it tight. I was trying to adjust the first stitch by pulling it tight or leaving it loose or whatever, but you got to do it with the second stitch, and when you pull that sucks it all in and makes it work. So let me show you where I was. So right about in here, I started doing that, and I didn't get that ridge anymore. I don't know if it's going to show up on here or not. So the socks are done. I'm glad because I hated the yarn. They're a little big. I wore them yesterday just around the house, and they got kind of sloppy. So I'm hoping when they wash, they'll kind of suck up a little bit. So my next pair of socks will be out of that confetti kind of yarn and a different sock pattern. So hopefully that'll fit better. One thing that I found by listening to the Grocery Girls, Jody had shown this sock ruler, and that's what it's called, is the sock ruler. And, excuse me, you use it to measure when you're making your socks. So it goes like from the toe, from the heel, wherever you are that you're trying to measure, so that you can make an accurate measurement every time instead of just trying to hold your tape measure and get the right measurement. I usually end up making my socks, they usually end up being about the same size, but I thought this might be a little easier and a little more accurate. So it's like a pretty thick plastic, so it's going to hold up. And you can find this at sockruler.com. It took a little while to get here. I don't know why it took so long, because I think it came out of California, which is on the West Coast, but you know, slow boat from China or something. I don't know. So I think that's really all the new stuff that I have. You can find me on Instagram. If you want to follow me on Instagram, it's Carrie_S. I am on Ravelry as Carrie S. And I also have the Ravelry group for the podcast, is So Now What Podcast. Excuse me. get a drink. So, I'm going to pose a question, and I'm going to post it to the yarn or to the Ravelry group because I'm curious. I'm making shawls and stuff, and I thought, how do you store your shawls? Scarves, I've got a scarf hanger thing, and so they hang in there or they kind of roll up or whatever. But I thought, what do you do with shawls? What's your favorite way or the best way you found to store them? Do you hang them up? Do you put them in a drawer? Do you put them in a box? Do you just wad them up and they're on the floor in the in the closet? I mean, like, how do you care for them? How do you store them? So, go to the Ravelry group and let me know what you do. I'm just curious. I'm not really sure what I'm going to do, but I want to get some ideas of what you do, and then we'll see. We'll try it. I want to give a shout out to a new podcast that my friend has just started. It's called We Be Knitting Podcast. And Kathy and her daughter are going to start podcasting about knitting and crocheting and crafting. She's a very busy gal and makes a lot of stuff. And I think she's going to be really fun to watch. So tune into that. That's a new one that's out. So hi, Kathy. So I hope that you have a very creative week. I hope that you have a good week. And I want to thank you very much for joining me and watching. And that's all I have for now. So I'll see you later. Thanks for watching.